Picture this, it's 1954 and a group of explorers are braving the harsh conditions of the British North Greenland expedition, testing a new reference that would eventually become the modern Tudor Ranger. At the same time, back in Switzerland, engineers were quietly developing what would become one of Tudor's most iconic divers. If you're up on your horological history, you also know that Rolex debuted the infamous Submariner in 1954. When Tudor's Oyster Prince Submariner, reference 7922, dropped only after Rolex had a chance to roll out the original Submariner, it was predictably close in stature to the Crown's diver, as the two companies were basically one and the same at the time. Rumor has it they were largely developed side by side, and it's pretty obvious the rumors might be true if you've had the opportunity to look at them next to each other. In the years after, the Tudor Submariners saw quite a number of iterations, and today, laying eyes on the original 7922 is about as rare as glimpsing Halley's Comet twice in one lifetime. They made very few, and very few actually made it into the hands of the general public anyway. In any case, we remember the excitement that swept through the horological world when Tudor released the Black Bay 58 based on the Submariner 7924 that was released in 1958. It was an overnight sensation and captured the hearts of collectors and enthusiasts alike, pushing Tudor into the spotlight. With the vintage craze at an all-time high, Tudor has surprised us all with an even smaller, stripped-down diver at Watches and Wonders based on the 7922, the Black Bay 54. Now that we're all on the same page, let's check it out. Right off the bat, there's a few obvious talking points. The Black Bay line, which has produced heaps of success for Tudor, just keeps getting smaller. Even though Tudor's first venture into the dive world was over half a century back, the modern iterations first dropped about a decade ago as a heritage-inspired line. The Mark I saw its case at 42mm, and since then the cases have only gotten smaller. 41, 39, 36, and even as small as 31mm. As the 54 is essentially the 58 stripped down to only the utmost essentials, a 37mm diameter, down from the 58's 39mm, is definitely a little surprising, but not entirely out of the norm. While Rolex case sizes are creeping up, Tudor's walking resolutely the other way. Second, the Black Bay 54 sought to eliminate any extraneous design cues. Take a look at the bezel. Once familiar with the Black Bay 58 will realize the 54 opted to simplify the timing bezel by removing the minute markers between the 1 and 15-second positions. The 58's made sense. It was modeled after Tudor's dedicated utility-first mid-century divers, but seeing as Tudor's trying to keep evolving the Black Bay heritage line, the 54 is definitely inching further and further away from true diver utility, but more on that in a bit. Apart from a true vintage-inspired 37mm case diameter, there's a few other notable case changes Tudor undertook that changes the wearing experience compared to the 58. Flip the case on its side and you'll notice a slimmer profile, 11.24mm for the Black Bay 54, down from the 11.9 of the Black Bay 58. Now, the thickness accounts for the case back and the dome sapphire crystal, which have largely stayed the same, but the adjustment happened at the main case itself. Tudor also slightly modified the rose embossed screw-down crown to a slightly more minimalist design, and the coin edge bezel finish also sports less but more pronounced notches compared to its older 58 counterpart, as does the bezel. The latter seems to certainly help with grip. The 54 also switches the color of the pearl housing triangle marker to white from the 58's bold red. Looking down from the top again, we spoke just a moment ago that Tudor seems to be shying away from utility-first specifications, and while this is true with more minimalism that probably wouldn't be any pro diver's first choice for timing, the Black Bay 54's oyster-style case is still incredibly rugged, with 200 meters of water resistance, courtesy of the screw-down crown, which lost a bit of weight this time around. Tudor built in a shorter crown stem with a smaller case size, which altered the crown's appearance as a result. With a smaller case diameter, we like how Tudor also adjusted the crown's proportions and how it complements the main case. Let's talk about the case's wearing experience. Our wearer sports a wrist size just a hair under 8 inches, and at 37mm it unquestionably wears small with this wrist dimension. If you're a fan of small vintage case sizes, perfect. The Black Bay 54 may just be the right size. However, if you're unsure, you won't find a better fallback option than the 58. Tudor's not the only Swiss watchmaker who have embraced smaller case sizes, but Tudor is certainly one of the biggest names to be doing so it's certainly noticeable, especially compared to their sister brand. This year at Watches and Wonders, Rolex debuted several new references, and predictably, continued to increase their case sizes, as they have been for the last decade or so. In terms of the finish, the Black Bay 54 is in lockstep with the 58. Vertical brushing on top of the lugs that extends into the bracelet, punctuated by rows of high polish that wraps around the sides of the case and onto the screw-down case back. Under the dome sapphire, the iconic diver styling of the dial is what we've seen built into the Black Bay 58, originally made popular by Rolex. Gilded framing for the hands, indices, and markers, and dial text above the 6 and below the 12 with Tudor's shield logo on full display. Here's what sets Tudor apart. Their dive watches are often instantly recognizable, logo text and iconography aside, by the unique snowflake-style hands which first showed up in references about 15 years after the Submariner 7922. However, this time you'll get a circular seconds hand, playfully nicknamed a lollipop hand, with a matching circular balance that's close to the 7922, and the hands are packed with plenty of lume, as are the rest of the dial elements. As the dial text above the 6 suggests, carried over from the 58, Tudor builds in the fully in-house manufactured caliber MT5400, a COSC certified master chronometer. While the naming convention for the movement is different than the 58's, the nomenclature difference is simply reflective of the smaller size of the movement to accommodate the smaller case size. Functionally, both the MT5400 and the 58's MT5402 are the same, both COSC certified master chronometers with the same beat rate and an impressive 70-hour power reserve. As a testament to Tudor's in-house manufacturing, the MT5400 is still able to pack the power of the 58's with 2mm less room to play with, and it's even thinner in profile. Although the release of the Black Bay 54 was itself unexpected, the inclusion of Tudor's fairly recent T-fit adjustment clasp was a welcome sight to Black Bay 58 fans, and it builds in modern tech behind a markedly vintage aesthetic, which is to say you get the best of both. The 58's micro adjustments were certainly industry standard, but recently we're seeing many Swiss heritage brands begin to innovate in the clasp space, and we agree that it's high time. While it's certainly a fantastic watch, it's not perfect, and the 3-link stainless steel could do without the faux rivets. Tudor gave attention to the bezel to remove and minimize any extraneous details on this parsed-down Black Bay, so why skip the bracelet's extraneous details as well? Luckily, Tudor offers the Black Bay 54 with the signature rubber dive strap, similar to the one that comes with the Pelagos 39. It's incredibly stealthy and extremely comfortable. It also goes a long way to bring a touch of the 21st century to an otherwise markedly retro design, and you'll save about $200 by doing so. That being said, once the stainless steel bracelet hits the wrist, you'll hardly notice the presence of the rivets themselves. Now that you're caught up to speed, let's talk about where the Tudor Black Bay 54 fits in Tudor's growing catalog and who it's perfect for. When it comes to sizing, the Tudor Black Bay 54 is a perfect choice for those who gravitate toward the Black Bay 58 but found it slightly larger on their wrists than they anticipated or preferred for a purpose-built vintage watch. With a true vintage-inspired case size, the 54 is perhaps ideal for wrist measurements between 6 and 6.5 inches, though those with larger wrists could still appreciate how the smaller case size renders on their wrist if they like the vintage vibe. We maintain that trying it on in person will be key to fully appreciating all the Black Bay 54 has to offer. While it is true that the Tudor Black Bay 54 and virtually every modern Tudor diver is a robust watch with a tough water-resistant oyster-style case capable of handling even the most serious dives, it's important to note that it's primarily a design-first piece. For those specifically looking for a dedicated diver with more utility, other options from Doxa or Omega might be more suitable. As always, let us know what you think of the Black Bay 54. How do you think it compares to the 58? Do you think the 54 will have as much success as past releases? Where do you see Tudor going from here? We'd love to hear your thoughts.